Could you build a car just as fast for less money? I'm Scott Parker and this is Project Magneto, our 2018 Mustang GT. If some of you guys recall, we had a 2020 GT500 project and I loved driving that car so much. It made me fall in love with the S550 all over again, and I knew I had to have one, and it begged the question, could you build a car just as fast for less money? Because let's face it, we don't all have the deep pockets to buy a GT500, myself included. And for point of reference, a GT500 would go for about 80 to 120 grand, brand new, and they would go typically about high tens. I think Car and Driver, some of the big magazines went like 11.0, right around there. Fastest known stock time was around 10.5 or 10.6 or something like that. The goals of this build are to go as fast, if not faster, than a stock GT500. That's just for starters. We also didn't really want to cut up the car too much. You know, I wanted to keep it street friendly, if not street legal. So that means no fender exit, you know, turbo setup, or getting rid of the hood or anything crazy like that. Didn't want to strip the car. Wanted to keep it pretty street friendly. This one, right on the money. I found this car about 90,000 miles for less than $30,000. So it fit the bill for my budget. The car came with some worn out generic tires on it. So rather than run at the drag strip with these tires that was just gonna spin, we got right to it and put on a set of RC components, Street King wheels, along with Mickey Thompson rubber. So we did bigs and littles. The bigs in the back weren't too big. They were 275s mounted on a 17-inch wheel, which is made perfectly to fit the S550 and its brakes and everything. So that worked out really well. Those tires are very street friendly. They have a lot of tread on them. Well, not a lot, but a good amount of tread on them. And the compound's not too soft. So you can drive to and from the track. You can putt around town with them. They're a very, very nice tire, ideal for a stock or bolt-on car. So we started out making some baseline runs at the drag strip. During that baseline run, track was meh. We were in Southern California at the time, in Verona, but on those ET Street SS's, we went a 199 60 foot on the way to an 819 in the 8th mile. Now that, we really found that the limit was the stock converter at that point, and we just couldn't leave any harder, frankly, in order to go any faster. I mean, I could stomp it as hard as I want, it didn't matter. So the car either needed more power, more gear, more converter, something. So then we headed to CCC Motorsports in Santee, California, where we got our baseline dyno. The car made, let me get this right, 372 horsepower and 338 pound-per-feet of torque on their Dynocom chassis dyno. Decent power, but we did have a little bit of issues. The car threw some codes at that point, so it felt like there might be just a little bit more in it at that time. From there, we knew we needed boosts. That was just a necessity, right? Because if we tried to do this naturally aspirated, maybe we could have done it, but we really would have had to strip the car and it wouldn't have been very street friendly. So that was a no-go. So then the question became boost. We don't want to cut up the car. What's the most kind of street friendly, but it's going to get us to our goals? And we felt like, what's better than the same supercharger that powered the GT500 itself? So we wound up going with this VMP 2650 Loki kit. It's really a great setup. We'll talk a little bit more about it later, but this is a great foundation. Out of the box, it's great, but also we could build upon it. We knew we could build and go up from here. Should we miss our goal in the first attempt, you know, we could put a smaller pulley, we could put a larger throttle body. There were things that we could do to continue to make more power. I mean, this thing will make over 1,000 horsepower. But really the key for any drag project is the foundation, the chassis. Chassis and the suspension are so important. That's why Dyno was actually a great partner of ours on this build. We went to them first, talked to them about the setup, everything from the tire choice, the alignment, suspension setup, what parts we needed, all of that. They gave us lots of great advice. In fact, the build in some ways is modeled a little bit after their Silver Bullet, so they were a pretty appropriate partner and very key to helping us figure out exactly what we needed to do. We installed pretty much their full catalog front to rear on their front and rear suspension. That included springs and shocks front to rear, all of the hard parts as well, including their anti-wheel hop kit. Now that was really key because we wanted to get all of the slop out of the stock suspension. We needed all of the power that this thing has applied directly to the ground. And the factory suspension works well, but it's designed around eliminating noise, vibration, harshness, NVH. That was not a concern of ours. We just wanted to go as fast as we could, so we needed to get all that soft rubber out of there. That soft rubber can do a lot of damage to your driveline, especially since it was not designed for stickier tires and for the power levels that this thing has. So that could really do a lot of damage when you start talking about something like wheel hop. Wheel hop is when literally the back of the car starts bouncing as you brake, grab, and let go of traction. Is kind of like fighting for traction. That's really bad. When that back end starts bouncing, that's when you start breaking all sorts of stuff in the drive line. Drive axles are usually the first to go. Then you got your diff, your drive shaft, even the case of the transmission. So wheel hop is really bad. That's why we have their Stop the Hop kit on this thing. It puts solid bushings on the differential itself. Now that did increase NVH a little bit through the car, but well worth it. We're still running the stock aluminum differential case in this thing. So that's going to be key to keeping that thing alive. Also keep in mind, this is an IRS car. So that means that the alignment in the rear is dynamic. So that means when you apply the power, it's really key that you've got the largest footprint you can with those tires. You don't want it to, tilt onto its side or onto the inside edge of the tire when you're under maximum power. You want it to be, whether it squats or it separates, either way, you want the footprint to be largest when you're under power. Another thing which is absolutely crucial on these cars, the oil pump gears. It is the Achilles heel. Now the Coyotes, especially the Gen 3s, you can make 1,000 horsepower with this engine, stock engine, with everything, the entire rotating assembly, heads, cams, everything, but those oil pump gears. They don't like high RPM, and they really don't like high power and boost. They're made from powdered metal. They tend to come apart, and once those things start to come apart, there go your bearings, there goes your whole engine. It does a lot of damage. Very bad stuff. Replacing them is a bit of a job. You got to take the whole front of the engine off, but well worth it to preventing thousands and thousands of dollars worth of damage. We used oil pump gears from Melling. There are a few others on the market, but Melling, they're a manufacturer for OEM. We knew that they knew what they were doing. They had an eye for QC. All of this was going to be manufactured to the tightest tolerance. So with a tank full of 91 octane, Southern California's finest, we headed to CCC Motorsports. The car put down 557 horsepower at 475 pound-per-feet of torque. It looked to be making around 11 PSI. It was acting a little goofy on the dyno. We thought maybe it had a little more in it, but that was as good as it did at the time. Now fast forward, I moved to North Carolina, and the first thing I did was put 93 octane in it, and then it started acting even more goofy. And this time it was most definitely something to do with the transmission.
It's still throwing the tranny code?
Right at the very top when I let off, yes.
Mm-hmm. I took it to Pro Dyno, who is just across the border in Fort Mill, South Carolina. If you guys have been to Mustang Week, you probably know who Pro Dyno is. They've built a lot of the cars that you'll see there. They usually have a pretty good presence down there. They got me figured out pretty quickly. They figured out that it was the transmission, in fact. Now our driveline wasn't completely stock. We had aftermarket axles from the drive shaft shop. We had a QA1 carbon fiber drive shaft, but the transmission itself was stock. That was a stock 10R80, and so they're known to sometimes have some problems. It can be a strong transmission, but they can also, they're known for having this clunking issue when it goes into gear, which I had, and then it got progressively worse. They're also known to occasionally burn up a clutch or two. So the transmission got shipped off to Suncoast, and they also upgraded the stator in the torque converter while I was out there. Rebuilt the transmission. I believe it's their stage 2, which should be plenty to hold up for the amount of power that we're making here. As they were removing the transmission, they also discovered that the catalytic converters were shot. You could see in some of the videos, I actually put a screwdriver through it because it had just hollowed itself out. All of the material had exited stage left. I called Cook's, got their full long tubes and 3-inch exhaust. How can you complain about a better sounding Mustang that makes more power, right? Well, we figured we would make a little more power, but holy geez. ...666 horsepower. Yes, 666. Wow, from 557 to 666. That's unbelievable. Now granted, it's a different dyno, you know, different atmosphere, all of that, but good grief, that is a huge gain. Pro Dyno dialed in our tune just a little bit, and off to the track we went. Again, this car was a whole different animal, especially at the top end. We wound up going 695 in the 8 and 1072 in the quarter mile. So a whole different animal. And again, now we're at a big track, so you got some quarter mile numbers for those of you who are not a fan of 8. A few weeks later after that, the NMRA is in town. They're actually came right here to Rockingham. I wound up racing in the True Street class, and really the track prep was on point. The car went its fastest 60 foot at 167, on its way to its fastest 8th mile at 690, and then in another pass it actually went a 1063, which is the fastest quarter mile pass it's ever been at 130 miles per hour. So we're right in there. Right at that, I would, you know, I could certainly say that this project has been a success. That said, we weren't done. We wanted to give it one last shot. I had every intention of running a different set of wheels and tires when the car made this much power, and that's exactly what we're here to do today at Rockingham. So the new wheels and tires, it's RC's Street Fighter setup. These are actually forged wheels with a bead lock in the rear. They're the ET Street R305. That means we went from a 26 to a 28-inch diameter. So we've got a bigger, taller tire, more footprint, and it's a softer, stickier compound. So we should be able to leave harder. Before, we were basically leaving off of idle and then kind of rolling into it. So hopefully today I can lean a lot harder and get some better 60-foot times, which will help us go even faster down the track. Now, if I can get below a 1050, I would be ecstatic and could call this 100% a win. But if not, you know, we'll live to fight another day. I've got a few more tricks up my sleeve. All right, so the final run on the day here at Rockingham. I went 155 in the short time, fastest short time. I stalled it up to about 2,500 and hit it as hard as I could. Had just the tiniest bit of wheel spin, tire spin, but it didn't, no wheel hop, not a touch of wheel hop, just a tiny bit of spin, and it just hooked and went like a dream. It was amazing. That was on the way to a 681 at 102. And the quarter mile time was 10:61 at 129. So just a hair slower in mile per hour than I was going last time I was here. That has something to do with the weather conditions. But the new tires work. It really helped. It would be great to see what this combination could do with just a pulley change, just to get a little bit more power up top, and then we can kind of eke you know, that ET down a little bit. I don't know how much faster I'm going to go in the 60 foot. You know, that's pretty good. I mean, I'm stalling it as high as I can. You know, I can hit it about as hard as I can. You know, with I may need stronger brakes, or at least a more aggressive brake pad, which I could certainly try. I have a set at home. To try just to stall it up a little bit higher and hit it even harder off the line. It's about the only thing I can do to go any faster at the 60 foot with a you know, off a foot brake. So I'm pretty happy with that. You know, did we go faster than a GT500 for less money? Absolutely, absolutely. 1061 in these weather conditions. I challenge any GT500 to go as faster than I did today. I'm not saying you couldn't go faster in a bone stock GT500, because I think it has been done. I think someone went 1055, but those were like ideal conditions. This is, it's 80 plus degrees. It's a little humid. You know, it's just not, it's not even as good a conditions the last time I was here a couple of weeks ago. The track prep is great, but you know, the air is only so good. So anyways, yep, I think I'm gonna call this mission accomplished. That said, I do wanna put that smaller pulley on there. You know, it's like nitrous. You just wanna put the bigger pills in there. It's the same thing, and you just get addicted. So I wanna see how much faster it'll go with the smaller pulley. And then, you know, who knows, maybe we'll try some different fuel or something and see if we get more power out of it, or even smaller pulley. I don't know, let's get crazy, right? Anyways, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and if you want to see a complete price breakdown of what it costs to build this car, stay tuned to the editorial. We'll have this all in the stories on FordMuscle.com. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe this video. Thank you.